Hey everyone, welcome to week 57. Today is day 5, Friday. This is our last day of our Space Before Figure week. And it's been super cool. We've been exploring what happens, inside the relationships of my painting when that figure that was once the focal point becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and the space becomes really important. So let's see how we finish off this week today. Remember, next week, new theme, so we'll see you there. Bye.
Okay, let's get started. This is day 5. This is the last day of our Space Before Figure. And to be honest, I'm sort of reconsidering this title. I had an expectation of what the paintings were supposed to turn out like when I was thinking about how to title this week after that first painting. But in reality, something totally different happened. And I guess the difference between the expectation that I had or the way in which I thought the week would unfold was that I supposed my focus would simply be shifted to the background. My figure would always occupy the foreground, and, that's what's put in front of you. That's the focal point of the paintings. And whatever is on the background, I always understood to be indispensable yet secondary. All those different instances in the painting are playing absolutely necessary roles, but they are secondary roles. They are there just to make the figure look good, right? So in many ways, I thought that this week's paintings would be about bringing the background forward, bringing all the surrounding space. Everything that's enveloping the figure is going to come forward. And as it's coming forward, it's going to be more important. And because it is more important in the picture, then I'm just going to naturally inject it with relevance. And how do I do that? I just pay attention to it through painting. I'm just going to look at it more. I'm going to develop it more. I'm going to break bigger shapes into smaller shapes. That's what I expected to do. Again, these were the expectations of how I thought my paintings were going to progress. I mean, not progress in the sense of them communicating better their intent, but progress in the sense that I set myself a goal throughout the week, and that by the end of the week, I thought that it was going to be very evident that the space was going to be the protagonist of my painting. That's what I thought when I said space before figure. I was going to turn the tables. I was going to put all my attention into things that, not that I forgot about while I was painting. I really want to make that clear. You can't forget about elements that are going to be important in a painting. Every single element in a painting is important. Every single element that is painted means that it was a choice. You made a choice to paint something. And because it is a choice, inherently it means that there's purpose. And the purpose of it could be to be secondary, and that's totally fine. But again, what I thought would happen was that those elements that I always left in blocked in stages or that I just enunciated, I was going to be able to further develop. I thought that I was going to be naturally attracted to these spaces. The weirdest thing about this week is that that wasn't necessarily true. It's not easy for me to say, okay, since I'm not painting Dani, which is always going to be the focus of my love and attention, I thought because I'm not painting Dani, here's a couch. Here's the couch that she's sitting on. Let's really kick ass with this couch. Let's model the crap out of this couch. And I thought that was going to be what was going to naturally happen. And I kind of listened to my instinct, and that was not what was happening. What was happening was something entirely different. I realized that I was almost incapable of granting all this attention to all these spaces. And it's very strange. I never expected that it was going to be hard for me to acknowledge that the space could be the protagonist of my painting. Sometimes we think that shifting our focus is something super easy, that we can be 1,000 painters at the same time, and that I could just simply say, okay, I've been painting figures for so long, I can now paint spaces just because I want to. And it's almost like turning off a switch and then turning on another switch. Truth is, it's not that easy. It is so not that easy, because I realized that when I turned off a switch, I wasn't able to redirect all that energy. It's almost like I had a leak And all this energy and attention was just kind of seeping out. And there was nothing that I could do that could contain all this energy and focus that energy on something. I think that was the issue during this week. I don't think it's a problem. I don't think that this was something that I could have foreseen. And I don't believe that the answer to this issue, as if it was a problem, was just to say, okay, you need to concentrate a little bit more on the character of your spaces. You need to paint those spaces as if they were human beings. You have to load them with personality and character. I don't think it's that either, because I think I have done that. I mean, I painted this very abstract painting of my mother's wooden floor and stairwell, and that painting is a very expressive painting, but that's also a painting where I'm paying special attention to everything that's going on. I'm paying attention to the texture of that wood, to the reflection of that wood, to the direction of the planks of that wood, to the design of that wood. I was able to understand that even though there wasn't a figure, I connected with the personality of that space. You know, I kind of knew that space by heart. And I'm not saying that this space is different, but perhaps it is, because you know, that's my mother's house. That's the house where I grew up. And even though that wooden floor is kind of new, because like I talked about that day that I painted that wooden floor, there used to be a carpet there. So this wooden floor is kind of like this new moment of my mother's house, this kind of second season. Even though that floor has been there for probably over 15 years, I would say that half my life there was carpet, and then the other half we had that wooden floor. But there is a connection. Now, with the spaces that I'm painting this week, a lot of them, 4 out of 5 of these spaces, they happen to be this new apartment that we moved into, and we've only been here for a couple of months. So it is different. I mean, we understand this space as our own because we are inhabiting it, you know, because we filled it with our things. And you know, Samu and Fer have a room where they have a bunk bed. Dani and I have our bedroom. We do understand it as our home, but there's still this sort of disconnect. You know, whenever you're renting a space, you kind of, in the back of your mind, you can tell yourself, yes, I'm inhabiting it. That is the place where I sleep. That's the place where I work. You know, my kids are there. Obviously, Dani is there. But yet, it feels different than the house you grew up in. So maybe there is a sense of disconnect, but not disconnect because I don't care about this space. It's just that this is a new relationship, and I can only get into, I'm not going to say superficially, but there is, you know, a limit to the depth of the knowledge that I have of this space and the exchange that I've had with this space. So perhaps that's what's kind of blocking me from trying to imbue it with character. But honestly, if you are a good painter, and I have to believe that I have a good relationship with painting, you have to be able to extract the character out of things that you don't know anything about. You could have just met somebody, or you could be passing through this space, and it's no excuse. I mean, the time that you know somebody, or the time that you've been in a place, isn't really an excuse, even if it's a small amount of time, to not do an in-depth painting, or to not do a painting that means something. So I don't know if those are the relevant factors of why I haven't been able to push the character of these spaces. But here's the thing, even though I didn't take that route, I don't think that it makes these paintings uninteresting. There's a sense of wholeness to these paintings that I really like. I mean, this is very strange, but before this week, I think that every single painting that I've painted, I've always understood it as a bullseye. You know, I've always seen a painting as an opportunity to speak about what interests me. Where does my interest lie in? The painting is an exercise where I'm able to control the way in which I present things to people, and I'm able to create this hierarchical scale that wouldn't be available if you're just looking at nature, if you're just observing nature. But through a painting, I'm able to tell people, hey, I found this to be important. I found this specific moment to be relevant, to be interesting, and it moved me. And you can use a ton of devices to tell people where their focus should be. And that's almost every single painting that I've painted. But I've never, ever, and I'm being completely honest here, and hopefully by all this questioning that I've subjected myself to for the last couple of days, you can notice that this is something that's very genuine, but I don't think I've ever painted a painting where everything just kind of matters. By day 3, I was saying, I'm painting nothing. I'm doing this balancing act of nothing against nothing. I'm not pushing anything inside this painting. So it's a very monotone painting. I don't mean to say it's a monotonous painting. I don't think it's a boring painting by any means. But I think that everything was just treated in a very kind of silky, samey way. But, when I hear myself say those things like samey, oh, this painting is, painted in a very bland or samey way. And I think I called it like vanilla or mayo. Stuff that would make you think like, okay, you can't refer to an exciting painting in that way. But for some reason, the way that energy, that attention kind of spread out to the 4 corners of that image just made me feel like I was really covering. It's almost like a blanket. It's a very kind of soothing blanket over the whole image. And it doesn't mean that because I'm thinking of the wholeness of the image, then every single moment has to be treated equally. And by saying that every single moment has to be treated equally, I'm not speaking of like a Bouguereau painting, for example. I'm not speaking that every single centimeter of that painting has to be painted preciously. No, it's not quite that. There is no sense of precious in there. It's almost like everything has been normalized. Everything has been leveled, and everything is just this monotone hum. And I think that that's really, really cool, because that sense of wholeness, I think it's something that has escaped me throughout my life. I've never really been able to tap into something that just feels just very natural. It's so weird to not try to push something in a painting, to not try to communicate the source of you being moved through a painting. It's very, very strange for me. And I think today is the culmination of that. And I think it's really beautiful, because today I actually think I understood what I was doing. Past couple of days, Wednesday and Thursday, I think my mind was going like a million miles an hour, but it was also swirling like crazy. And I think today I was finally able to say, okay, let's put my mind at rest. Because I think, Wednesday and Thursday, I had this feeling of doing something wrong. And when I was reflecting upon it, I was telling myself, maybe what you're trying to do is just bullshit your way out of a painting. You're just trying to justify a bland painting. And this is something that's truly hard, because lying to ourselves is never cool. But even worse than lying to ourselves is starting to believe our own lies. The worst scenario possible for this exercise was one in which I was trying to justify a bland painting by making up reasons for it, and then believing those reasons, believing that those reasons could be valid. That's what I mean by bullshitting my way out of a painting. But again, that next level, that part where you're convincing yourself that what you're doing has some value to it, has some sense to it, when you know for a fact that it is pointless, it is baseless, that it is completely empty, that serves no purpose. That's actually harmful for us as human beings and painters, obviously. So it was very important for me to really be honest with myself and to say, what is going on here? Are you just being lazy because you're not putting enough attention in these spaces? You're not excited, so you don't know how to solve them, and you're just finding the easy way out where you're just thinking about the bigness of these spaces? Or are you trying to do something different? And I think the coolest thing about this whole week was that I found myself in a place where it just felt different. Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, it's not hard to develop an area of a painting. It's not hard to say, okay, I'm going to paint this couch, or I'm going to paint this table, or I'm going to paint this wooden floor, or I'm going to paint this window frame. Now, we may connect differently to different things, and that connection that we may have, may produce different results. Empathy, for sure, can make for a better painting. But that doesn't mean that we have to be empathetic with everything, right? I think you guys have heard me say that the thing doesn't matter. We can make any painting exciting. We don't need the object of our adoration in front of us in order to produce a great painting. There could be something that we've considered boring for our whole lives in front of us, And as painters, we should be able to tap into something, to connect with something that makes that painting exercise exciting for us. And if it's exciting for us, then our painting is going to be exciting. But I think this week, I was able to get to a point where I was questioning that idea of excitement, where I was saying, why do we always have to just, put an exclamation point in our painting? Why does it always have to be powerful and exciting and moving? All these words that we use to describe a strong painting. Why do we end up using all these adjectives? And how are they materialized in painting? How is it that we can identify them so easily in a painting? I started asking myself all these questions. And again, this is done through very, very simple exercises, very simple paintings. But the coolest thing is that you don't have to do a complicated painting to ask complicated questions. Sometimes very simple paintings can be the catalysts for very complicated questions, probably questions that can't be easily answered. So it's always healthy and good to not expect answers, because many times those are not going to be readily available to us. So in the end, I think what happened was that I was comfortable and I let myself navigate this kind of still pond. I'm trying to describe in so many ways how these paintings feel, and I just can't really describe them from painting because it's a very hard exercise. When I think about painting, I also think about image making, and I also think about all these characteristics that are supposed to happen in a painting. But when I don't feel a painting in those terms, then describing what I'm feeling from the traditional definition of a painting is sort of a moot point that just doesn't make sense. So that's why I'm talking about air and energy and ponds and spreading energy thinly. I'm trying to describe a feeling more so than a painting. And I hope that makes some sense. I think today's painting, there was a sense of bigness to it, of wholeness to it. And I was very happy that I let go of a ton of specificity that was very much so present in tons of areas of this painting. There was a lot of places in this painting that I could have just spoken about perspective or how the wood kind of reflected light a little bit better. But every time I wanted to stop, my brain was like, move. Keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Again, it's almost like you're spreading something. And if you think about it, when something is spreading, it's not stopping at anything. It just kind of goes. So there's no time for stopping and saying, oh, this is beautiful. Oh, this detail is super nice. Oh, this little bit would be really nice. Oh, I should focus in on this. No. It's almost like the purpose of that energy is to occupy all that space. That's what I feel that sameness could be defined as. It's just an overarching sensation that could actually embrace the fact that there are attempts of accents. There could be contrast by value. There could be contrast by saturation. There could be contrast by complementaries. There could be all these things within this painting. But there's also like this bigger law governing the wholeness of that painting, saying the painting is going to be observed through this veil. Woof. Tough week, right? Very tough week. And I think, I wanted to speak about a bunch of people. I thought about Giacometti this week. I thought about speaking of Gideon Bach, who's a great painter. But I think I'm going to be able to speak about them next week. I already have like something in mind that I could do for next week that will enable me to embrace this idea of space and have the conversations that I wanted to have contextually with other painters, because I did start with Bellows and Sloan and the Ashcan School, and I thought I was going to be able to bring up other artists that would help me, that would guide my way into understanding this sense of inhabiting a space, of leaving an imprint in this space. And that wasn't the journey. I thought that was going to be the journey, but clearly that wasn't it. And I think this week required me to think out loud and to let myself think out loud. Sometimes we're mad at ourselves because we think that these questions are so stupid. They make no sense and nothing good will come out of, this line of questioning. And I'm trying not to judge myself, and I'm trying to just let myself go. And, if I want to ask something and if I want to dive into this, really abstract pool of a problem, I'm going to let myself do it. So I think that was this week. So if you made it this far and if you thought it was really cool that, we were questioning things that don't really make sense, you're awesome. And thank you. Thank you so much for your company because it means a lot to me. So that's going to be it for this week. It doesn't seem like it, but it was a whirlwind of a week. I mean, my brain, oh my God, you don't want to be in my brain right now. As we say on Fridays, Dani and I are super grateful that you allow us to be your company for at least 20 minutes every day. It means everything to us. And like I said, next week, new theme, and I think it's going to be super cool. It's actually born from all of these reflections. So I think it's going to be a really nice way to connect what happened during this week. But that's going to be next week. So thank you guys once again. We'll see you next week. Bye.